What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of JaAR. JaAR, for those of you that may be new, stands for Joe
and Amy
Review. This is our weekly show where we go over the magic stories as they are posted on Wizard's website. This week we have Feast by Allison Lures. We'll do a quick review at the beginning. Go read this one. Go read it.
Definitely.
We always say we don't review, we don't summarize, we review. We're just changing the show. That's it. Surprise.
Right.
We don't summarize, we review, and we don't want to spoil anything for you. You should go read the stories as they were intended to be read, and then come back here and listen to our analysis and, participate if that's what you're interested in.
Comments as to what you think.
Correct. But yes, this was a great one. Definitely worth it. This one, even if, I don't know why you're watching this show if you haven't been following along with and Cat or Hour of Devastation, but to be honest, this one just has far-reaching implications for the story of Liliana in general, more so than just the world of and Cat. In fact, the world of and Cat was barely coincidental in this story whatsoever, or barely relevant.
Yeah,
it
was the setting.
Exactly.
But it kind of didn't play a part, and usually settings do. So.
Except for in the way that the demon was eventually taken care of, but that's kind of a different story.
Right.
So, but regardless.
But, if Liliana's fighting him, it's always going to be something dead killing him,
Right. So, short analysis at the beginning, go read it, then come back here.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry about the spoiler I just gave.
That's why I tried to rush you through it, but that's okay. Full review. First of all, as we said, Feast by Allison Lures. We talked about it last week, and either this whole series or last week's video will be linked at the end for all of you to go take a look at, but Allison Lures, 4 weeks of stories in a row now.
Yes.
4 in a row. Killing it.
Yes.
4 weeks in a row. None of them were bad. None of them were her being overworked or having writer's block or whatever. And sure, you could say that they technically write these stories as a committee and then she's the one who puts them into words, but that's still a difficult feat in and of itself to write all of that and make all of that interesting. And she did a fantastic job for the last 4 weeks.
Sorry.
She was also part of the podcast, as we talked about.
Yes.
And we will get to this at the end because it is important, and you have the benefit of seeing the runtime as we talk now. I don't know when the end of this video will be, but we will take the time because it is important to talk about the announcement video that was put out today.
Yes.
Today being the day that the story was released on Wednesday. The announcement video that was put out today, the trailer for Our Devastation that was put out today, and Allison was in that one as well. So Allison, I feel like, has just, if you're following along at home in all of these different things, I feel like Allison has been almost as prominent as Mark Rosewater in terms of frequency of her name and face showing up when it relates to magic, and in no way is that a bad thing because she is incredibly talented, and Wizards clearly sees that just as much as we do and is working towards that.
And I had thought perhaps that it was maybe just an and Ket thing, while she was prominent in the making of this particular plane, and Ket and Hour of Devastation. But no, because when we saw the announcement video, she was pretty prominent in that too. And guess what plane she was talking about?
It wasn't
and Ket. So
yeah. And like I said,
props to Wizards of the Coast for using their resources effectively.
Very effectively, yes. So definitely awesome. And again, we will get to all of that stuff at the end. There is a lot to unpack, and we will try to do it in a concise manner, although if you've watched for long enough, I'm sure you're like, yeah, no, you won't. But regardless, into the review itself, this was Liliana dealing with and fighting and killing Razaketh. And to be honest, this fight could have only happened to this effect after Liliana joined the Gatewatch, because she was controlled by him, and there was nothing she could do about it until 4 other people had to get involved and save her. And I thought it was funny because she was like, yay, I'm going to kill you, and yay, I did it. And it was like, no, you didn't. it took 5 people to kill this demon, and Liliana was like, yay! Like, at the end, like, she was super excited, and it was like, no. And sure, she didn't use the chain veil, but that was only once she regained her abilities, which took the other 4 planeswalkers to get her back to that point. And in using her own abilities, she almost lost control in the process, and Jace had to sit there and try to bring her back, which kind of worked, but kind of didn't. But it was interesting that...
I think it was about how good it felt to actually get to kill him in the end.
Right, and I mean, we've seen that with the other 2 as well, with Kothafed and with Gristlebrand, but this was different. This one was different in many different ways, and she herself even said that the other 2 were idiots, they were super easy, and she had the element of surprise, whereas here, quite the opposite.
Right.
He had the opposite of the element of surprise on her, in just showing up and being like, I know you're here, and then just taking control of her, and I loved that moment of, like, her hand twitched, it went up, and then it waved at her. Like, that's such a cool piece of imagery. The other thing is, you really get to see with this story what your opinions are in terms of whether these stories need art or not, because this story was devoid of it. Completely devoid of art. It had one piece of art, which was a broad overlooking image of, you know, the Noctamen buildings with the River of Blood, the Luxa Blood River running through it. There was not a single person.
Basically has nothing really to do with the story.
I mean, it does. Again, it was the setting, and the setting contributed to the killing.
Somewhat tangential setting.
Yes, and it contributed to the killing, as we saw at the end with all of the dead creatures from the Luxa. Hundreds, as the story mentioned. But besides that, I mean, it was funny. I like the art because it's always so good, and so I was looking for it. But honestly, at the end, because it wasn't there, I'm not super broken up about it.
Yeah.
All that it honestly means is that this set in Hour of Devastation is not about Razaketh. Like, he's there, but it's not really about him. Which kind of leads me to my next question. We talked about Kothafed. We talked about Gristlebrand. We talked about Razaketh. And as Liliana said, there is one more left. That's it. There's only 4, and now 3 are dead. And as we saw, Razaketh is so dead that there is no part of him that will be coming back to the Curse of Wandering here on Amonkhet, let alone her being able to raise the dead, etc.
Yeah.
Because he is in 12 different crocodile stomachs, which is awesome. But my question is...
And they can't be, you know, swimming around in a river of blood with, like, you know, stomach rumblings forever because there's a half-eaten demon in there.
True. Like I said, it leads me to my question, though. Gristlebrand, very good card. Very popular card. Very famous card. Still to this day, part of many cubes. Kothafed, on the other hand, not so much. Was kind of there, was kind of okay in, like, limited. Didn't, as far as I know, and I'm not a big constructed guy, but as far as I know, did not make an impact in standard. We will see whether Razaketh rises to Gristlebrand levels, falls to Kothafed levels, or falls somewhere in the middle. I would love to have that be more of a theme, in that Liliana's demons are a big deal and should be, especially since they made such a point in the story of saying that Razaketh was so different from the other 2, and yet Gristlebrand is so powerful and impactful.
Yeah, so that kind of sucks because it kind of makes me feel like that card's gotta be real good. And
I predict it won't be. At the time of recording, maybe you're watching this after the fact and you know what Razaketh is like, but at the time of recording, clearly Razaketh has not even been spoiled that he will be a card in this set, to be honest. I just make that assumption because there's so much art of him, And he was a relatively prominent part of the story. I mean, 1.5 stories were devoted to him. And he was used as a delaying tactic to Nicol Bolas, which we predicted last week if you watched last week's show.
Right.
So yeah, I'm curious to see how that card comes to be and whether it follows that trend or not. But we got to see Razaketh go down. It took 2 elementals, multiple fireballs, a full-on strike from the Searle, Jace messing with his mind to interrupt his control over Liliana, but just barely.
Yeah.
And then Liliana taking control of hundreds of dead animals from in the Luxor River, fish, crocodiles, antelope, and I loved, and it was not lost on me, the word that they used to describe all of those animals was menagerie. And as you all probably... Oh, I loved it. I specifically wrote it down, too.
Yeah.
Menagerie. Like the Vizier, but now they're all dead, and so Liliana is in control of them, and she is controlling that menagerie. They also, in that moment, talk about the fact that even when Liliana's just controlling all the dead things, the fish, the antelopes, etc., she talks about how she almost loses control. And she almost doesn't know where they end and she begins, or vice versa, where she ends and where they begin. And the next thing you know, she kind of drops her control on all of those things as Razaketh is beginning to weaken more and more with his blistered, charred skin, and she takes control of literally 12 crocodiles. Now, as we've seen in Amonkhet, crocodiles, like the scaled behemoth, for example, are 6'7" creatures. They are not tiny little crocodiles.
No.
They are 12 6'7s, and sure, maybe you could say that some of them aren't as big or not as developed, fine. But there are at least a couple that are like 6'7" bodied creatures. And it takes 12 of them to rip him to pieces as he screams. So cool.
Good.
So cool. And it says, and I wrote this down as well, she says, and the story says, her teeth gnashed, her bellies hungered, her jaws opened and closed, and her 12 selves ate him and ripped him into pieces, grabbing at limbs, twisting them to make them come off clean. Beautiful, as we come to expect from Allison, beautiful, descriptive language in what is a disgusting portion of the story.
Yeah, great
but
imagery.
So awesome.
Yeah, and it was written in a way that conveyed to us, based on the reactions of the rest of the Gatewatch, how gruesome it was. But the way it was described to us made us like it, made us think of it as beautiful more than gruesome.
Yeah. I mean, Gideon is a soldier. Gideon's a warrior.
Yeah.
And he turned away. Chandra burns people alive.
Yeah.
And she turned away. Jace puked, although he watched the whole thing.
Right.
And Jace kind of seems like the kind of guy who wouldn't want to watch Endor. Of course he would puke, because that just seems like Jace. And I don't know. That's just how I feel. But it was so, I mean, it was just so good. Just so good. This story had little things as well. Like I said, this story is overarching. It refers to a hell of a lot more than just Amonkhet, and it has far-reaching implications. Liliana didn't use the chain veil. Fine. But she talked about it a couple of times because, just a reminder, she's got the chain veil. So this story did a good job of reminding you of that, but Liliana says, you know, I want this to be a special touch. I want him to know my full power and see it. And she says, watch me as I kill you. So good, so cool. Then you have the Raven Man even shows up. Liliana's body is not her own. She can't, later on she gets to talk, but she can't even speak on her own at the beginning. And the Raven Man starts talking to her. And she says, not now, go away, leave me alone, I don't have time for you. And he says, I'm not going away until you get rid of all these demons. You need to get rid of all 4. And at that point, Razketh wasn't dead yet, but I thought that was interesting because the Raven Man had always come out kind of tempting her as it relates to the chain veil and taunting her with the chain veil and stuff like that. And now he's saying that he'll go away when the demons are all killed.
Yeah.
I don't buy it, but...
yeah, it's... I don't know. It's weird. I feel like we're going to figure out what his real motivations are, because I feel like they haven't been told to us
No.
yet.
I also
Because
think...
even if they have been told to us, they haven't been told to us.
Right. I also think that it might be like classic kind of video game swerving, where it's like, you kill these 4 things, you win. And then she kills those 4 things, and whoops, now the Raven Man is free because for some reason the demons were holding him back, and he's
gonna
worse.
Control her forever or something.
Right, and he's just worse than all of them or something.
Right.
So that's my guess. I'm sure we will hear much more from him, as it was, like I said, hinted. Do I think it'll be any more in this set? Doubtful.
They're the only ones who can, keep him from going off the rails
Right.
and being the most powerful thing in existence,
And that is very tropey,
Yeah.
but it's one that I appreciate. I think if they do it right, I don't see any problems with it. We'll see. We have time because, like I said, I imagine that the Raven Man will not come up again for a while. He had his moment, and he'll be gone for a while. Think about the last time we saw him. I'm pretty sure it was on Innistrad, I guess, was the last time. Shadows over Innistrad.
We saw him in here.
Well, that's what I mean here, but then before that was on Innistrad last, and so...
Do you mean plain or story?
Plain.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's
So
just...
like he was in a different story.
He's very infrequent, is
Right.
my point, and we will have some time, I think, prediction, no knowledge whatsoever, but my prediction is we'll have some time away from him, and he'll come back kind of when you forget that he exists, and
Right.
that's just kind of his MO, which makes perfect sense. Because Liliana will be fine moving along, doing her thing, and then he pops up and he's like, hey, don't forget about me. And she's like, damn it, go away.
This guy again.
Yeah. So, we got to see Nissa get a little bit annoyed. To be fair, all of the Gatewatch were annoyed with Liliana, even though oh, go ahead, I'm sorry, I know you want to talk about it. Okay. We got to see all the Gatewatch get annoyed with Liliana, and Liliana bring up again the fact that this was all part of her plan. She wanted to join the Gatewatch in hopes that they would help her kill her demons.
Kind of convince them to help her.
And now she's successful,
and
at least.
It's a good thing that they did, because she'd be dead.
She'd be very dead. He said he would maim her, not kill her. But still, she'd be screwed.
She'd be worse than dead.
Yeah, exactly. She'd be tortured, she'd be under his control forever, whatever. Because even while he was getting beat up by an elemental and burned alive, he was still able to exert his control over her. And don't forget, Jace also mentions later on that he had been trying to free her from his control for 10 minutes. So it means that Jace, everybody but Gideon, was fighting against his control of Liliana, and it wasn't working. Which means that he was damn powerful.
Right.
Really, really powerful. Again, it took 12 crocodiles to eat him alive after he was already blisteringly burnt alive, and an elemental was holding him down to the ground after he'd already killed one of them. So,
well, he's rather large.
Correct, but the other ones weren't. I mean, they're not, tiny baby demons either. But,
well, I'm sure.
Regardless, we will see where the last one comes up. Clearly in storyline, the last one that Liliana killed was Gristlebrand, because Kothafed was way earlier on, although we saw that more recently thanks to Magic Origins in terms of story, but that was looking in the past. But it's presumably, again, prediction, no knowledge, presumably going to be a while before we deal with that last demon. And I think Liliana's going to have a problem on her hands when that comes around, because the other members of the Gatewatch are real sick and tired of having to help her. They did what they had to do, but they all got real pissed off at the end of this one and all of them made that very clear, including Jace. And Jace said to her, I'm not helping you if you lose control again. And she's like, well, I did what I had to do. Come on, you understand. And he just kind of brushed her off. And that's kind of the first time that we've seen the two of them not end with kind of resigned love for one another. You know what I mean? Like, this is not exes liking each other anymore. This is like, Jace was like, you messed up.
This is exes finding out what the other is capable of.
Mm-hmm.
And how scary that can be.
Right. And kind of realizing, like, wait, what have I been doing? And I'm sure we'll see more of that. Again, right now, the story ended, as you all know, with the Gatewatch saying we have to regroup and deal with Bolus now. And we'll see what happens with that. I honestly assumed that this story would end with Nicol Bolas appearing. We'll have to see what the next story is, whether we go back to Samut and Jeru again, whether we're with the Gatewatch again, because they said that they wanted to regroup and get a better position. Gideon says that they want the element of surprise, even though, as
not gonna happen.
No, as Amy I think correctly points out, there's no way. I mean, Bolus clearly knows they're here.
Bolus is watching.
Yeah, he clearly knows they're here. But I will say that I believe it was Nissa who pointed out that that the spell that Razaketh cast on the water created what she called a chain reaction of sorceries. Does that mean the plagues? I think so. You know, or the Amonkhet equivalent of the plagues, right, since that was the first plague. That almost has to be what that means. I think with our long discussion last week of why we don't think all 10 plagues would work in story.
Right.
You can go watch that video. I'm not going to go over all of that again. But what I will say is, with the now Hour of Devastation trailer that was released, which we'll touch on a second, very short trailer, but still so much to unpack from it.
Right.
There was a giant bug monster, like a giant, what looked like, honestly, it looked for a second like an Eldrazi. It's not. It also
it's
just...
either a fly or a locust.
Right, but it looked like the Grim Strider from the last set, right? Tall, lanky, horned sort of thing, but this thing had wings like a fly has, you know, kind of like 4 segmented wings with like the veins going through them, and they're kind of see-through but also a little shiny. But coming with it is just a swarm of flies or locusts or both or whatever. And looking at that, my first thought was that I would love if the plagues were depicted in cards, as opposed to, or in addition to, touching on it in the story, right, you know, kind of in passing.
And it sounds like you got your wish, because they might show up as sorceries.
Right, and that would be fine. I would be interested to see, because we've seen a lot of cards that are similar to a swarm of flies or a swarm of locusts. In fact, I think there might literally just be a swarm of locusts card. But I feel like those are all black cards. You know what I mean? Like, maybe the river running red is not a black card. Land disruption has always kind of been a red or blue thing.
Well, it would be perfect as red.
Correct. Well, and again, because, you know, you get to, and it's corruption of water, so maybe it's like an island turning into something else. It wouldn't be a mountain, but, you know, like a colorless land or something like that. But regardless, you know, or kind of destroying the land, making it inert, kind of a thing.
Like a waste?
Not really. We already had deserts in the last set, and they were all terrible. Sorry, I've been drafting a lot. Check out those videos too. I don't take deserts; they're bad. But I mean, honestly, the plagues being shown in cards, I think, would be really cool. I just am curious as to whether they will be varied in color, or whether they will all kind of, you know, focus primarily in black and then scatter a couple here and there. Either way, we'll wait and see. I don't I don't automatically, I'm not like, well, that's a problem. I think it should be fine. I don't know that there's much more.
I just
Go
wanted
ahead,
to
please.
mention, you brought up Nissa before.
Getting annoyed and stuff?
Yeah, I thought it was cool that she had that line of like, let's hurry up, because as he read it, I was like, oh, Chandra's chiming in, because Chandra chimes in. No, she's shooting flames over there. That's Nissa saying that. Thought that was cool. But another thing that I thought was cool was that sort of that they mentioned Jace going back into Liliana's mind as being like rain. And of course that's exactly what you want in the middle of a desert, especially when the only river or water source has turned into blood.
Correct.
But I thought it was cool because I immediately thought of that other story where Yeheni mentions Nissa with the stream.
Right. And getting the hint
like,
of stream.
Yeah, seeming like there was a stream coming from Nissa. And so it made me think of that. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I can kind of see how Nissa would be a stream,
right,
and how Jace would be rain.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of those two, we got to, in this story, even just for a second, we got to once again see them kind of break off from the Gatewatch and have a private mental conversation back and forth, because they now share a color, at least in this block.
And I thought it was cool that we weren't in on that.
Correct. Both times we haven't been in on that, because... And will that come up later? I would think so. Yeah. They've now mentioned it twice. The first time it was mentioned, it was because Gideon was like, oh, I guess Jace and Nissa are just having conversations now without me. And,
it seemed like he was annoyed by it.
And now we'll get to see if that is a more permanent thing, or because now it looks like it wasn't just there to show like Gideon kind of not in unity or solidarity with the rest of the Gatewatch, to then be kind of preyed on by Oketra.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It kind of seemed by the wording in that story too, that like it happens semi-frequently. Like that wasn't the first time and it won't be the last.
Correct.
Kind of thing.
Right. Which is fair.
Yeah.
I brought up Oketra because I think we're done with this story. I want to kind of slowly transition into talking about the rest of the stuff that happened today. But I want to go back to last week for just a second and talk about, we had a set of comments where we had a discussion.
Yes.
And we always ask you guys to do that, and we want you guys to be able to be a part of that discussion all the time. And we finally remembered to look up someone's name when we actually referenced their comment.
Yes.
So I wanted to thank Eric.
Make sure to do that.
Yeah, I wanted to thank Eric Blank.
Yes, thank you so much.
For your comments if you're watching this video. But we will talk about what that discussion was. Eric brought up a lot of different things, but mainly the discussion was focused around the gods. And I encourage you to go watch our last video or go look at our last video and read those comments. Comments. Because I'm not going to, I didn't write them down.
Yeah, we're not going to read them all off.
And so I'm not automatically going to properly represent all of Eric's opinions here. I just wanted to put it out there as a discussion topic if people want to continue that discussion. But we talked about the gods, and we talked about kind of, Eric wrote a response to our question from last week, which was, why were Oketra and Hazaret so different from all the other ones that they were able to break from their, being
trance
upset or whatever, and grief, to be able to go and save the children, or at least try to. And Eric's answer, which I think makes perfect sense, is it seemed to focus most heavily on Hazaret. And Hazaret being able to shake herself free and then shake Oketra out of it as well. Ronus has not been talked about really at all. I mean, he was brought up in that story by name, and in the story, the last story from Amonkhet by name, but we haven't seen him do anything really. Yeah. And the reasoning is because, as Eric correctly pointed out, referencing back to the podcast that Kelly and Allison did, also on our JaAR series, you can check that out. They talk about the fact that the trial of strength takes years to complete, or a year or a long time to complete, which means that the short period of time that the Gatewatch have been, thank you, on Amonkhet, it wouldn't have made sense for them to have seen or been a part of that trial.
Or interacted with him really at all.
Right, and that's the thing. They haven't had a reason to yet. This set now has a need for all of the gods to be present. And so will we see Ronus? Maybe. Will he be glossed over? Maybe. Because they've given Kefnet a personality in his discussions with Nissa. They've given Bantu a personality in her discussion, argument with Gideon.
Yeah.
They've given Oketra with Gideon and Hazaret with Samut.
Yeah.
More of personalities here. But to kind of go along with that, and something that Eric and we did not know through our discussions, going back to the trailer had one god in it. Just one. And it was Hazaret.
Right.
And it showed Hazaret kind of shielding herself from the swarm of locusts. By the way, something I just realized, which I'm sure lots of people may be yelling at me about, that big bug thing totally could be one of those three gods. It makes perfect sense.
Oh.
Makes perfect sense. Just realized it again. I'm sure I'm not the first one to have come up with it. I didn't read that anywhere. But I didn't think of it either until just now. But that giant bug thing, especially then kind of thinking back to the pictures that we saw from archenemy Nicol Bolas, and we got to see kind of the gods walking back there, that's not out of the realm of possibility that one of those gods would be...
The Strider thing is one too.
It's possible, but I don't think so. Because I think the fact that it's not legendary makes it... The fact that the card itself is not legendary kind of means that there are a bunch of them walking around outside.
But you think this insect thing will be?
I think it might. I think it might be one of the gods. Who knows? Again, that's definitely... We've got time for that, just a guess, a prediction. So to move away from that discussion, and please feel free to continue it...
Well,
I'm sorry, not...
Finish your sentence. I mean, you talked about Hazaret being the only one...
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Trailer.
So I think that means, thank you, I think that just means that Hazaret is going to be the focus.
I think what it means is
gods.
that she was the one who knows that Nicol Bolas has done this to
Has
all of
manipulated them and stuff.
And she's the one who is trying to save Amonkhet.
She does not, in story, she doesn't know that yet.
But,
Will she be the first?
I mean, based on that story, I kind of feel like both Oketra and Hazaret know it.
No. That was in the past.
I know.
And then their minds were wiped. Nicol Bolas said that, which is why they don't remember anything from before. But, and because Samut tried.
I kind of messed up that timeline in my head, I
Right.
guess. Because I kind of thought that the others couldn't do anything because their minds had been wiped.
They were racked with grief.
And those two kind of came out of that mind-wiping process.
Right.
And were able to kind of know what was going on.
And,
but I guess that's not true.
Right, and we saw Kefnet get his mind wiped first. He fell so the Hekma could fall. And then Nicol Bolas followed Oketra and Hazaret, wiped their minds or fractured their minds, whatever you want to call it, and then later replaced their minds or their thoughts or their memories with what he wanted it to be for them. So
does that mean Nicol Bolas can't get through the Hekma?
I don't think that's what that means, because if you remember, Kefnet was kind of straining, but Nicol Bolas was able to just kind of look through the Hekma and go, stop it. And then Kefnet fell, and now Kefnet's under Nicol Bolas' control, so I'm sure Nicol Bolas can get through the Hekma now.
Right.
Plus, he was able to break through it the first time. It didn't come down, he just broke through it. So he's definitely powerful enough.
Yeah, so then why did he need to focus on...
Because Kefnet was still able to keep it up. Would it have kept him out? Would it have kept him up? Would it have kept him out forever? Doubtful. Was it annoying and in the way? Probably.
Okay.
That's my guess. Is that it was just, you're annoying me, stop it. And he just put him down.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
'Cause I was gonna say, like, why would he care about it if he could just break through the Heckma?
Right. So,
All right.
moving away from Amonkhet, moving away from Hour of Devastation, we move to the 25th anniversary of Magic the Gathering.
Yes.
Which, first of all, awesome. This game is a big deal and has been around for a long time. And this announcement was huge. I think there are a lot of times where you hear huge announcements from Wizards and it kind of falls flat. Like you're like, oh, that's what you announced? For example, they just recently did a Magic Digital Next announcement where they talked about all these cool things are coming and it's the 15-year anniversary of Magic Online, even though the program still sucks and we've done nothing to fix it and Joe's not bitter. But their big announcement, they were like, oh, there's a big announcement about Magic Digital Next, and it really was more things are to come, and Magic Duels is going away. And it was like, what was the purpose of this announcement? Like, you made it seem like it was a big deal. You wanted everybody to go read this article, and you were just like, more things to come soon, bye-bye Magic Duels. Was that really necessary to have in that announcement and to be so proud of that?
I think they just wanted to amp people a little bit.
Well,
because I think they were trying to get people ready for this announcement.
They didn't talk about this one.
It was very close in
Correct.
timing. Wise.
But now we have this announcement. And this announcement came with, I don't know, 75 million things.
Yeah, too many things. So the first one didn't have enough, and this one got way too many.
Yes, and I want to go through them, and I want to make sure that I get them all. I want to focus on the lesser ones that I'm happy about, but we're not going to go in depth on. The core sets are back. Who knows? They got rid of them. Now they're back. I will chime in with everybody else. Not everybody else. I will chime in with many others who are saying that I'm really to agree and say that I'm really glad that Wizards is willing to look at something that they did, recognize a mistake or something that's not working and try something new and not be afraid to go back on it. Because if they didn't, that would just be them being stubborn, right? They'd just be like, well, we changed it and it didn't work, but we changed it, so it's got to stay that way.
Right, and that's not good business acumen.
Right. They're...
on top of the fact that it's just, not very dignified.
Right. So they're going back to core sets starting in 2018, 2019. I think it's 2019. They'll be back... Yeah, it was 2019.
No, I think it's sooner than that now.
No. Well, because we're in 2017 now, we know what the rest of the set releases are, and we know that after Ixalan is Rivals of Ixalan, and so...
I got the feeling he said it was 2018.
No, it's 2019.
Okay.
But anyway, so we have the core sets are back. There's a new Masters set, but it's not Iconic Masters, which is not going to be previewed at all. It'll just be shown at HasCon, which have fun paying millions of dollars to go to that. We're not that good, unfortunately, and we don't have that kind of money, and it upsets me greatly. But but it's in Rhode Island. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, look it up. HASCON, HasCon for Hasbro, the parent company of Wizards of the Coast, etc.
So it's not just going to be Magic or...
No, it's they were talking about My Little Pony and Transformers and etc.
Lots of other things
Monopoly.
That Hasbro encompasses, yes.
Right. Plus they were talking about cards that kind of cross over, not in an actual set, but just like fun cards that they're going to be giving out. Like, I assume one with Transformers and Magic, one with My Little Pony and weird stuff. But regardless, we're glossing over this stuff.
I think it's stupid. If you don't think it's stupid, that's fine. I'm not judging you.
You're wrong for that, and you're terrible. No, kidding. But it's not Iconic Masters. It's the 25th Anniversary Masters set. I don't know. We'll see. I've liked the Masters sets. This is 2 Masters set releases in 1 year, and people have already been complaining about the fact that Wizards is printing way too much premium content, or product, I should say, and making people spend, or expecting that their fan base can just spend millions of dollars on this stuff.
Well, I think that's kind of why they decided to take the idea of it being a 25th anniversary set. instead of just...
Yeah, but it's still a Masters set. Unless they show me a price point that is different from all the other Masters sets, there's no way. Especially because Iconic Masters is being previewed at HasCon, and the package that they are offering on their website for Magic fans, which gets you into all of the Magic-based things that you would
I thought
want.
what Mark Rosewater said in that video was that he was combining them.
No, they are two different sets.
Or he was releasing... Or they were releasing the...
They're at different times. They're being
Right.
released at different times because
Right.
they're different sets.
But okay. What I got from what he was saying was either they were being combined or that one was being pushed way out so that the 25th anniversary one could sort of take its place in the timeline.
My point is they're both in the same year. And
Oh,
HasCon, they're both being released in the same calendar year. And
That's a lot.
And HasCon has a package that they're offering to Magic players that is $600. I don't know about you guys. I love making these videos. We're not making any money off of them yet because they're not that popular, and that's totally fine. Again, not truly, honestly, not bitter. We buy a lot of Magic product. We open it. We play a lot of drafts, and we've been doing that for all of you, and we love that.
But there's a limit.
Well, and it's frankly a little offensive. It's a little offensive to be told, if you play Magic, this is what we expect of you. If you want to continue to be able to play this game, this is what you need to spend on it.
Yeah.
Now,
if you love the game and you really just want to own the product,
yes,
you have to have a certain amount of money.
Yeah. And I do not want to misrepresent, because that's not fair to you and that's not fair to Wizards of the Coast. I will say that you can go to HasCon and you can buy individual admission to all of the different Magic-based events without buying the $600 package, which, by the way, I will also point out, in no way includes hotel or travel to and from. And it's in Rhode Island, so if you don't live in Rhode Island, have fun traveling there and finding a place to stay.
Right. But at least it's Rhode Island and not New York City or something like that, where it would be hard to find a place to stay.
Regardless. Correct. I agree with you. But that is a very high price point.
Yes.
And on top of, if you want to go to GPs or Pro Tours or whatever, what have you, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And some people who play Magic, ourselves included, who enjoy Magic and consume Magic as in its totality, have other hobbies besides Magic. And that's okay. But if you are demanding, and it's not demanding because people can choose to buy whatever they want, but if you are demanding that much money from your player base to continue to enjoy and play your game, I think that's a problem. And again, this is Joe and Amy Review. We always want your opinions of whether you agree or disagree with us. And like I said, I'm trying not to misrepresent. You can go and look up HasCon, Google it, find out the information. I spelled it for you earlier. Look it up, look at the packages that they're offering, and then look at the individual prices for tickets, 3-day tickets, 1-day tickets, whatever, and admission to the individual drafts that they're holding, because they're holding Iconic Masters drafts basically every hour except for 2 throughout the entire event, and you can try to get yourself into any or all of them if you have the availability and opportunity. I'm focusing on the package, and it's something that it came up a couple weeks ago and we didn't get a chance to talk about it. It's fitting in now because this is what we're talking about, but I felt like you were going to say something. I wanted to move on to the next thing.
No, I wasn't going to say something.
So, then we have, moving on to happier things, there was Joe's mini rant, and we'll move away from that, into stuff that Joe is excited about.
Good.
First and foremost...
I prefer those things.
Yes. Merfolk versus Goblins. It's the new dual deck. Dual decks have always kind of just been there.
Yeah, fallen flat.
Well, not even that. I don't know of anybody who's like, yay, the dual decks. Like, it's just a thing.
Yeah.
It's a product that's released. It's fine. Merfolk versus goblins will be interesting.
I think that's kind of cool.
Because Merfolk...
But I don't... See, my dilemma is I don't know what side I would be on. But I think that's cool because I don't really play anyway, so I can straddle the line.
Merfolk is I mean, they both are, right? And the video said that. They're both classic races in Magic. In Magic's history, Merfolk is a very popular legacy deck.
Yeah.
Goblins do an amazing job of, like, they were the first, hasty, low drop, fast, aggro, tribal format deck. And they just run in there and just beat you up.
Whatever he said.
There you go. From a non-player, we're moving a little out of Vorthos here, but it's to talk about these things. So Merfolk versus Goblins is a thing. From the Vault Transform is a thing that they announced with double-faced cards. I have liked some from the Vaults. I have enjoyed. I own a couple. I own Realms, which is land-based, the land-based from the Vault, and I own Angels, which I won as a door prize at a draft or an event that I went to. This one, double-faced cards, so Huntmaster of the Fells, maybe Brizella. I don't know that there are 15 iconic double-faced cards that you're going to get in From the Vault that people are going to actually really look forward to. I don't know. That's, again, Joe and Amy review. They haven't announced what's in them yet. This is Joe's opinion on From the Vault Transform. What could be in there?
Yeah, because
that people are going to want to pay for.
There's nothing old enough that.
Well, that's why I said Huntmaster. From original Innistrad, that card was beloved and is, again, we talked about it earlier, is in a lot of cubes.
That's great, but that's one card.
That's
How
my
are you
point.
Come up with
14 more.
14?
Exactly. That's my point. So we'll see with that. Then we move on to the bigger stuff. The stuff that I'm much more excited about. And we'll touch on this one first. Unstable. It's the third unset. In the video itself, the announcement video itself, they tried to make this one a little bit more funny of a reveal. The other ones were kind of campy in and of themselves, which is totally fine. I think it works for what they were trying to do. But to have Mark Rosewater kind of run in and blurt it out and get kind of pulled away, and he kind of adjusts his, takes his jacket off or whatever after he gets it out and adjusts his hair or whatever. That was fine. It's an unset, so that makes sense for that to have that kind of a reveal on the next unset.
He was acting unstable.
Yes. And I love the unsets. If you are a newer player and have not had the opportunity to play with an unset, do so. Again, it's a lot of things that they announced. They announced it all at once, and it is going to be over a 2 or 3 year period. So, but I'm 100% looking forward to the unset. I'm going to, if possible, I'm going to do my best to buy a box of that unset, open it on the channel. I'm going to draft it as much as I can because I'm sure it's going to be fun. Obviously, they haven't revealed any cards from it yet, but Unhinged and Unglued to go backwards in time were both amazing, and I loved them.
And that's why I'm not convinced it's going to be that great. I feel like this will be so anticipated, and people will want it so badly that it's not going to measure up.
I don't remember whether it was on Twitter or where, but Mark Rosewater said he's been working on this unstable set since 2011.
Okay.
That's 6 years today, and there's no promise that it's done yet before it releases, so I am optimistic.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it greatly. As with any of these things, let us know what you think in the comments down below.
Yes.
And give your opinions on it. Now, after Hour of Devastation, we kind of talked about this, but we have Ixalan. Ixalan, as we saw in the leaks, whether they were real or not, it looked to be an Atlantis-themed set. Amy made the reference, which I thought was brilliant, by the way. Props. of the fact that Vraska is going to be there, and we know that, and we know that she planeswalked to a place that Ral Zarek was not aware of, or that they were not able to see, or was a plane that they couldn't find or didn't know existed yet. And
so of course it's Atlantis.
The lost city of Atlantis, but it's Ixalan, so it's the lost plane of Ixalan. But they showed one promo image. I mean, they talked about it in the video, but they showed one promo image from Ixalan. It's on their website. You can go check it out. It is Vraska with pirates in some pretty sweet-looking pirate gear. So it's a Gorgon pirate planeswalker now.
Which sounds amazing.
Yes. On a plane based on, apparently, the lost city of Atlantis, fighting against natives riding and living among feathered dinosaurs.
Yes.
That's awesome. I can see how some people would be like, oh, that's childish. I disagree wholeheartedly.
I'm all about dinosaurs.
Agreed.
But
I also, Amy and I had differing opinions on this. I think that the fact that they are using feathers on the dinosaurs is awesome. Because if you are a nerdy guy like me, or someone who appreciates history and science, you will hopefully know that scientists more recently have found that it's very likely that dinosaurs were feathered. Actual dinosaurs were feathered. Based on fossil findings and things like that, they were able to find that it was very much more likely that because things like chickens and birds evolved from or came from dinosaurs and were around in the time of dinosaurs, feathers were much more prevalent, and so they kind of went back on the old image of just leathery skinned lizard-like dinosaurs. They now more likely had feathers, as well as all of that other stuff.
yeah, the picture that we saw was the leathery skin and sort of feathers atop it.
Correct. And they made a point in the video of saying historically accurate feathered dinosaurs, which I am totally okay with. I appreciate that. I think it's good, and I think it helps to kind of push forward the idea that this is what they actually looked like, guys. Don't forget, it's not the old pictures that you saw, which were cool, you're right? I mean, we all know of the existence of the Jurassic Park movies, and that's, I feel like, where most people, besides museums and things like that, get their imagery of what dinosaurs in fact looked like from, and now we know, based on advances in science, that that's not historically what they looked like. So I'm looking forward to Ixalan. I'm looking forward to seeing what that will be like.
Yeah, we disagreed because I just want my classic dinosaurs.
Which I'm sure that there are many other people who agree with Amy. So sound off, let her know that she's not alone.
That's because I love dinosaurs and, because who doesn't?
Of course. They seem really awesome. And again, these guys were riding them, which is even cooler.
Yeah.
And we will see how that plays in. We'll see how Vraska plays in. We've got a long time for that. And we've talked about that a lot. Then we have one more thing I wanted to talk about. The biggest thing I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
And it's because this is a Vorthos-based show, the biggest thing I wanted to talk about. After Ixalan, and after Rivals of Ixalan, we had a new plane in Amonkhet. We have a new plane in Ixalan. After Ixalan, and again, Rivals of Ixalan, the block, we are going back. We are going back to a plane that is Magic the Gathering. It is the history of Magic the Gathering. If you are new to Magic, or newer to Magic, and by that I mean, I don't know, clearly post-Origins, but post-Shards of Alara, post-Kamigawa, really, we are going back to the plane of Dominaria. Dominaria is the plane that everything was a part of originally, before all of these other planes came in and existed that we knew of, right? I wrote this down. Dominaria has impacted the following sets, or was just in part, the story of Dominaria was told in the following sets. Because I looked this up. The Dark, Fallen Empires, Ice Age, Homelands, Urza's Saga, Urza's Legacy, Urza's Destiny, Prophecy, Invasion, Odyssey, and Time Spiral. That's 11 sets. I wouldn't be surprised if I missed one, or 2, or 5. But that's 11 sets that Dominaria was set in, that the stories that were told on Dominaria were told through. And now we're going back. Now, with the new announcement that they have made, in addition to core sets returning and different rotation changing and things like that, what matters to us as Vorthos and here on this show, they are doing one set blocks. AKA, they're just not doing blocks anymore.
Right.
There are no more small sets. Small sets don't work. There are no more 2 small set, 1 large set drafts.
Yeah.
Because those sucked. Because all that happened was that people were begging to get to the large set in pack 3. Ixalan will be the last set, at least for the time being, until if and when they change it. And that's not indignancy. That's if they need to tweak something. But for now,
anything and everything at this point has
correct.
changed at least once.
Correct. At this point, we are looking at 1 set per plane. 1 set per story. After Ixalan. Ixalan has 2 because this, Ixalan was in production since well before this announcement, but...
Which, from a story standpoint, I like that because...
Correct.
And I'll explain why.
Please.
At this point in the story where we are now, it makes sense for them to really branch out and actually show us the multiverse that they've been dangling in our faces.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, show us more of these other planes that exist. If there are such an endless supply of them, what are they?
Mm-hmm.
Let us go there.
Mm-hmm. And we are returning to, as I said, a big one.
Yes. Like I said before, the whole... I don't know if it's going to live up to the other ones. Yeah, this is definitely...
And
I don't know.
That is a fair concern.
Ugh.
You have a lot that goes into this. Now, you have a lot of loyal players and Vorthos who are aware of the past stories, and you have newer Vorthos who are not aware of those stories.
Vorthos pride.
Yes. I, personally, just if you care, if you don't, sorry, I'll make it brief. I started playing Magic the Gathering when Urza's Saga came out. That was my first set. I bought a pre-con Urza's Saga deck with Simian Grunts. It was a green deck. I had like Pillage and red cards and stuff in there too. Old cards. I still have most of them. But regardless, going back to the plane that contained the Brothers' War of Urza versus Mishra, the plane that first showed us the Phyrexians, who then took over with New Phyrexia and Mirrodin Besieged and all that stuff.
All of those names are names that I feel like I've heard just as much as names of any of these current people, places, and things in the story.
Right.
And I wasn't around for that.
Yeah. And it's the plane. They have one set. They have one set of stories for that set. Does that mean that it won't branch out into whatever's after that? Not necessarily, as we've seen.
It's already been in 11.
Correct. And there are a lot of characters to work with. And so could it go between planes? Could we go to Dominaria and then back to New Phyrexia? Maybe. because that's kind of where the Phyrexians invaded. We mentioned invasion earlier. That was the invasion of the Phyrexians on Dominaria and all of those different things. And so could that lead to all of those different things? Yeah. Will it? Who knows? But as a Vorthos, as a classic player like myself who's been around, and honestly, I read a bunch of these planes. Maybe you watching this have been playing since before I started. Definitely not difficult. You can do the math and figure out how many of those 25 years I've been playing for, because it's not all of them, but like I said, since Urza's Saga. I am super excited about Dominaria. The other thing is...
I'm just worried that you're going to be too excited.
That's fair.
And you're going to be let down. Because, well, but the thing is, too, there's going to be people all over the internet who are going to find something to nitpick and complain about and say how terrible it is, even if it's great.
People all over the internet, but we're on the internet.
Yes.
And we're going to find things. No, I'm kidding. We will.
Hopefully we don't find things, is what I'm saying.
God willing, we will still be around doing these videos when Dominaria comes back, or when we go back to Dominaria.
What I'm saying is that hopefully it actually does what it should, which is be a credit to the sets before it.
And we will find that out when we go back there. I wanted to, last thing I want to point out on that, and then we're done, because we're done. This is a long one.
It always is.
Yes. But no, well, this one we had the story and then more.
It always drags beyond what we want.
We are back at Dominaria. They announced that Richard Garfield, if you are unaware of who that name is, if you watched that video and you were unaware of that name, first of all, you should have played the unset where you had the Richard Garfield PhD card.
I'm sorry. I'll get right on that.
But Richard Garfield is the creator of Magic the Gathering. Look him up. He's created many other games as well, but clearly we care about the fact that he created Magic. In his creation of Magic, the other thing is that he is part of the design team for the Return to Dominaria set, whatever its name is going to be. I read online, thank you to Tolarian Community College, I believe, who tweeted that out. So I'll give a shout out to one of our, overlord YouTube creators here on this website.
Our competitor.
Yes, well, no. He is not our competitor because it's not even close.
Right.
But regardless,
no contest.
A thank you to Tolarian Community College for sharing the fact that the last set that Richard Garfield was a part of the design team for was Original Innistrad. If you haven't heard of Original Innistrad,
is beloved.
Yes. If you haven't heard of Original Innistrad, look it up.
Yeah. Because you're not doing this right.
No, it is a good time. Look up any opinions on it, any articles about it. Throwback drafts or things like that. Original Innistrad was a big deal. And if that was the last set that he was a part of, that should give you an indication, as Tolarian properly pointed out, or the professor, I should say, properly pointed out, that should give you an idea of how good Return to Dominaria, at least as a set, is going to be. Does that mean the stories will be? Hopefully, fingers crossed, we shall see. Yeah. We'll be around for that. We're done. I'm throwing the paper on the floor. When it pops up, there will be a button, our logo. You can click that logo to subscribe to this channel to find out when more of these videos come out. There will be other videos that will pop up, presumably over my face, because you've seen it enough. It's not necessary. It's done. Go away. But it's draft videos. It's product openings. It's more of this show. You can check those out as well by clicking those playlist links. This has been another episode of JaAR. Thank you guys so much for hanging out as long as you have with us. I feel like as soon as we're done with this video, my voice is going to be gone forever. So next week, hear a lot more from Amy. No, but yes, hopefully.
I'm sure it'll be fine by then.
We'll see.
We'll just have to not talk.
Oh no.
I know, right?
This has been another episode of JaAR. I've been Joe.
And I'm Amy. #Vorthos Pride.
Again. This has been on Geek for All. Thank you all so much for watching once again. And as we always say, in whichever video of ours you watch next, we will see you all next time. Thanks so much, everybody.